It's not up for debate. There's a great divide between men who get clean and sober and men who remain clean and sober. I began asking myself that question 25 years ago. Why is that? Why do some men get it and some don't? In this age of great information, why is the percentage of men who reap the rewards of long-term recovery from addiction, why is that so low? Has anyone ever considered that it may be partly because of the messaging? I mean, what is the price we are asking men to pay? And what is their reward? A man in recovery is being told, and this is just the short list, he's being told he has an incurable disease. He has defects in his character. He should be grateful that he just didn't use today. There are normal men and he ain't one of them. The only way he'll not lose is to identify himself as powerless and spend the rest of his life going to meetings. He's also told to trust a total stranger and tell him about all the skeletons that he has in the closet. Oh, and by the way, we don't have any expectations of you and you shouldn't have any of yourself because most men fail, so you just keep coming back, but we're going to keep telling you that it works. And yet we wonder what's wrong. The deck is already stacked against him, yet men who know that failure is the probability in a flawed message just keep repeating it. This shit is killing men and we need to do something about it. The harsh reality is that men are getting bad information and bad guidance. That first step says powerless over my addiction. It does not say powerless over my life. Hello, my name is Mark Mascola, and when I began my journey on the positive side of my addiction back in 1999, I knew this was life or death for me. I didn't have the time or the resources to be one of those guys that goes to treatment over and over and over. I had to get this thing right the first time. I knew my success or failure was up to me. While taking responsibility for my past was important, I figured out that I had best take personal responsibility for my future. So I did. For more than 2 decades, I have understood the importance of aftercare and continuing education. I've been helping men not just fix their addiction, but create a life where addiction has no power. I help them understand that men don't live a fulfilling life because they are clean and sober, but that long-term recovery is the natural progression of living a fulfilling life. It's not about fixing the addiction, it's about fixing his life. Too many men decide to go back to addiction because his marriage needs the attention he hasn't been giving it, and going to another meeting won't fix that. His kids need the attention he hasn't been giving them, and going to another meeting won't fix that. His physical health, his finances, just fill in the blank. And the best information he gets is to just go to another meeting. Now listen, I get it. There are times men need to go to a meeting, and then there are times he needs to focus on being the husband, the father, and the businessman his family needs him to be. How do I know? This is my story. I went and hid out at meetings, and my marriage and my company both crumbled into a pile. Bankrupt and divorced, I had to begin my life again. Does anyone ever say to them, you have no idea what addiction stole from you? And again, the message, just don't use for today and go to another meeting and tell all the responsibilities that you're hiding from that it's the disease's fault. Short-term recovery is based on physical abstinence. Life improves when you remove a few things from it. Long-term recovery, aftercare, and continuing education cannot be based on the myth that everything you need to know can be found at a meeting. I want to invite you to a special video presentation I put together called Create the Life Addiction Was Stealing From You. In this 90-minute presentation, I cover the 3 distinct phases of recovery where we help men understand that the journey to successful long-term recovery is a lot more than not using and going back to the life that more often than not is the source of their addiction. The game is to create a life, just like the title of the presentation, where they trade being powerless over their addiction for it being powerless over them and their families. I talk about the jungle of the addicted mind, understanding the 3 parts of the mind and how they work independently and interdependently together. I also talk about what it takes to break the loops of addictive thinking, and that the most important part is what they believe, and this begins with what they believe and validate about themselves. I introduce them to the power in their addictive personality, understanding the masculine ego and the three markers in every man's personality that drives every decision he makes, and that everything in this world is telling him he's not good enough on his quest for masculine validation. I also introduce him to a simple system that I call the power number system with an assessment tool. We introduce men to this simple system that they can implement into every area of their lives. As the name of the presentation outlines, create the life addiction was stealing from them. The power number assessment tool introduces them to an easily understood, organized method of thought and action to raise their standard of acceptance in the 8 key areas that every modern man in recovery must master. And at the end of the presentation, we'll introduce them to a program designed specifically for men who are interested in being part of a group who want more out of their recovery than just physical abstinence. The program is called Powerless to Powerful 180 and is backed by over 50 years of successful long-term recovery, thousands of hours of study, and tens of thousands of dollars in its creation. Like the presentation, the program focuses on aftercare and continuing education and is for husbands, fathers, and businessmen who not only can't afford to lose, but are committed to winning and winning huge. And just for the record, none of this is positioned as something instead of traditional 12-step recovery. It is in addition to, and is for men who are willing to do what most men won't, to have what most men don't, personally, professionally, and spiritually. We all know it. Addiction is an epidemic, but so is relapse. Men are told that addiction is a family disease, but they need to know they are the source of the disease and it's their personal responsibility to fix it. The presentation in this curriculum for men is for those who are on a quest like me to take personal responsibility for creating their best life by becoming the husband, the father, and the businessman, the impactful leader in our homes and in our communities, the men God created us to be and to become. I am willing to say the one thing men in recovery want to say but won't. It's not in my nature to be powerless, and I can assure you, my brother, it's not in yours either. I was born in the image and the likeness of a powerful God, and I'm going to act like it, and I invite you to as well. Remember, we don't just recover, we go from powerless to powerful. Click the link below or in the description, and we'll see you on the presentation.